I would love to come, but I've got a very busy month of February. It's not. I'm not going to Europe, but it's funny. The kids were all here for dinner last week, and what are you going to do? I said I have like 2 nights left of the whole month that aren't booked with something already.
Yeah.
A charity dinner that I donated that we got people coming over. I'm helping a college buddy tile his kitchen at his cabin. I've got a bachelor party in Scottsdale. I've got a civil ceremony here in town for AJ. The month filled up fast.
Yeah.
But I would love to be.
Is Margot aware of the tiling?
Yeah. She's aware of it. I think she might have been invited for part of the weekend or something. I'm not quite sure.
Because you still haven't done your bathroom, right?
No, we haven't. Let's skip over that part of it. But
Welcome back to WSITH in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta. Anthony just got off the Bird from Edmonton. I get on a Bird tomorrow from Milan. A couple Birds go over to Europe and then connect from there. Wild, unbeaten in regulation in the last 5 games and seemingly gotten their game together. Even though the home games, I'm sure they wanted to play better at times, still find a way to get points every single night, and largely to do with their big acquisition December 14th, Quinn Hughes. Unbelievable, Anthony. This guy, 8-game point streak, a career high, 8-game assist streak, a career high, and both franchise records for defensemen.
It's been unbelievable. We've talked about this a few different times. The difference with watching him play every night to watching him really closely 3 times a year and occasionally on TV. You don't really gain an appreciation for how good he is until you watch him every shift, every night. The way he has driven Minnesota's offense from the back end has been incredible. He's made the rest of the defensive core so much better. And let's keep in mind now, for the last couple of weeks, they've been without Brodin and without Bogosian. You throw those guys back in, and as I've made the case, I think it's the best defensive core in the NHL, 1 through 6, maybe 1 through 7. It's every night he makes, I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 plays that just make you shake your head that how did he even do that? How did he escape? How did he create space? How did that play materialize out of nothing with how quickly he's able to turn, how quickly he's at full speed? And the puck just seems to be super glued to his stick.
Yeah. I mean, it really has been unreal. Faber continues to play really well as well. But Faber, again, like I know we're all talking about how he's just a different player. He was playing great before Quinn got here as well. From November 1 on, he was awesome. 6 of his 12 goals happened before Quinn got here. But, you're seeing plays like last night where, Evan Bouchard, that was not his finest moment, where Brock Faber scored a highlight reel goal on him.
And really, if there was a play that magnified the difference between Edmonton and Minnesota, that was it.
Yep.
There's their best defenseman. There's a reason he's not going to the Olympics. He's got a bunch of points, but has no clue when it comes to defending. And Faber made him look silly. Now, we have to acknowledge Hughes and Faber were on the ice for breakaways the other way last night too, and when you're facing Edmonton, they take chances. They shoot guys out of the zone. You have to be aware. You have to be careful. And last night, Minnesota got a couple of huge stops from Ballstead when they did break down. But I just thought that play said everything. Bouchard got beat, looked lackadaisical even in his attempt to recover, and Faber goes in and snipes one to put the game out of reach. And Minnesota just has Edmonton's number, and
it's crazy. We've talked about this, and again, as you mentioned, right where the Wild really needed Faber to come through because they just hit the iron a couple times. They just got the Rasovic goal. They were definitely pushing and could have made that thing a hairy finish. It is truly crazy. So like before I got to town in 2005, the Wild couldn't beat the Oilers. Since 2005, 63 of their 66 wins against the Oilers have come in the last 20 years. It is truly unbelievable. No matter who's in their lineup, whether it's Eck or Brodin, with them or without them,
right?
They just figure out a way to not only win against them overall, but especially in Edmonton. Their best wins are always in Edmonton
when they don't get matchups.
Yeah,
where you'd say like over the years when the Wild would face Colorado, it was always, well, in Denver, Nathan MacKinnon would have point night, and then you'd come to St. Paul where he had to face Eck and Brodin, and the Wild would shut him down. Same with Dallas. They always seemed to beat up on Dallas when they'd come here, go to Dallas and get run over when they didn't have matchups. Edmonton, it doesn't seem to matter. It feels like it should matter. The numbers that we showed last night, it might be the favorite graphic I've built this year.
The Brodin
against McDavid. And because we've shown it video-wise over the years, the number of times McDavid will think he has a play made and all of a sudden Brodin recovers and you can see him looking over his shoulder like, nobody does that to me. Who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And so I went back and looked, and over the last 7 years, they had played head-to-head 12 times because there were a couple of games where one or the other was out. But in the 12 where they both played, Brodin is a +11, McDavid's a -11. The Wild are 10-2 in those games. But the most amazing stat to me of all, that Brodin has more even strength points in those games than McDavid. A guy who for years we've talked about as a defenseman that really doesn't bring much offense. He averages like 0.45 points per game in his career. McDavid's like a 1.5 guy. And yet Brodin has more even strength points head-to-head against Connor McDavid.
Yeah, and it is funny. I sent that graphic to a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours in Edmonton last night, because last time we were in Edmonton in December, or whenever the heck we were in Edmonton. Oh, no, when I was in Edmonton in December for the rivalry series, I brought this point up that Brodin is essentially the kryptonite to Connor McDavid, and he rolled his eyes and said, everybody says that it couldn't be further from the truth, but the reality is that it is. And you showed it there in a really good illustration.
Well, and I mean, you can argue it all you want, but it's fact. I mean, Brodin shuts him down. He doesn't score. And it's all relative. We were quick to point that out last night.
Still gets a point a game.
He gets a point a game against the Wild. Now, he hasn't in those 12 games against Brodin, the last 12, but for his career, he's still a point a game guy. There's only 2 teams against whom he scores less. One of them is Buffalo for some reason.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
And the others are New York Islanders. And I don't know who the mutual friend is to whom you're referring, because I don't have a lot of friends in Edmonton. I was talking with some of their guys when Edmonton came to St. Paul, and remember, Minnesota, they beat them 1-0 up there. It seemed to awaken McDavid. I think he had 58 points in 28 games since or something like that. But the game when they played in St. Paul, and one of them said, part of the reason it's tough is like, who gets up for a game in St. Paul?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell do you mean? Like, this team's has beaten the hell out of the Oilers for 20 years. If anybody would have their attention, it should be these guys.
Yeah.
And he said, well, he gets up for like going to New York or something. I was like, going to New York? I mean, you go to New York and you beat up on the Rangers. Like, you can't tell me that a pro athlete, especially a guy at that level, doesn't have enough pride to say, this is the team everybody says that we can't beat. I'll give you an example. Remember when the Wild beat the Oilers and then the next day they were playing the Avalanche, and the Wild had beaten Colorado the last time they played them? And I remember I was down in the hallway when the Avs came walking in, and the look on Nathan MacKinnon's face when he walked by, just happened to be down in the hallway when their bus arrived, was the same look that I saw from Jonathan Taves the morning he walked into Excel before he lit the Wild up for 5 points, where it was just this look on his face like, all right, nice little story here in Minnesota. You guys have been winning for a while. today we show you there's still a difference between the Wild and the Avs, and he did, and the Avs,
and he kind of said it after that game. He basically pointed that out that he was well aware that they had a meeting that morning, and that he was well aware of how well the Wild had played in the month of November
and had beaten Colorado when they had met him the first time.
Yep.
And there's just something different. So, and I was talking with the guys in Winnipeg about that Jonathan Toews moment. And that's the day, remember, that we had the interaction with Bruce Boudreau in the morning, and he had said he wasn't going to play Mikko against Toews. He was going to play Mikko against Kane because Kane's line is the one that does all the scoring. And I walked by when the Blackhawks walked in, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the Wild were on a win streak at that time, but Chicago was still the alpha in the division.
Yeah.
But
the Wild, remember, were leading the conference.
They were, but it was... Yeah. But the look on Taves' face when he walked in, I was like, oh man, they're going to kick the hell out of the Wild tonight. And I saw the same thing from McKinnon. Yeah. And you can't tell me that McDavid isn't wired the same way.
100%.
So
he's well aware.
Right. This whole explanation, like you can't get up for a Tuesday game in St. Paul it's baloney.
It's definitely baloney. And which is what probably frustrates McDavid the most about this is that, no matter what he does, it doesn't seem to change anything against his team. Last night was a weird game, though. Like Leon looked frustrated. He gets frustrated a lot on the ice. McDavid, I don't know if these two just didn't want to get hurt because the Olympics are around the corner, but there was one shift in the second period where Kaprizov went in there and forechecked McDavid and smacked him twice, and it was just like that was it. It was almost like McDavid just like, I'm not playing anymore tonight. The Wild, though, obviously a very impressive win, and most importantly, getting balanced scoring, and that's been the other part of the Wild, and what's become now a trend since Quinn Hughes got here. It's not just the blue line having a league high 77 points since he got here. It's them getting goals up and down the lineup where it doesn't have to be Kaprizov and Boldy every single night. And last night was a perfect example when Tyler Pitlick is getting goals and players like that. 15 guys with points, including Jesper Wallstedt. Pretty impressive stuff.
And again, one of the differences between the Wild and the Oilers. Mm-hmm. The Oilers just aren't getting anything. And we can talk all we want about their roster construction because it's been a point of contention on this show, and I've caught heat for it, but they're sending two guys to the Olympics, and the rest of their team just they don't have the rest of it. And they've tried, like the guys they went out and got this year, Mangiapane, he's not even in the lineup. They signed Trent Frederick to an 8-year extension.
Yeah.
The guys scored 3 points in 55 games.
Well, how about when Jack Roslovic took the Edmonton offer over the Wilds, and Wild fans were like flipping out, like it was the biggest injustice. He doesn't have an assist since mid-November. Like, that's crazy.
And he looks like a world beater on their second and third, and their third and fourth lines right now. They have nobody else that does any scoring there. Bouchard contributes offense from the blue line, but the rest of their blue line really doesn't bring much. Darnell Nurse brings almost nothing offensively. Ekholm's a good defenseman, but he isn't really going to drive an offense from there. So it's a team that you wonder. I guess you don't wonder. They have the best two players on the ice most nights, and that's why that in and of itself has been enough for them to stay where they are in what's a mediocre Pacific Division.
Well, there's
now.
My point. That's what I wanted to get to next, because I know that you and I have talked about it to the nth degree, but they've been to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row, in large part because of this NHL playoff format that doesn't send necessarily the best teams to the Stanley Cup final every year, because of this divisional format that's going to, as we're going to find out here, 2 rounds into the season, into the playoffs, most likely two of Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota will be out.
Yeah, maybe, but I'd give them.
But you would
credit.
agree that they play a really.
It's been an easier path for them, except that they've been on the ropes in the first round against LA 3 years in a row,
right? But beat them,
but came back to beat them, and that's kind of my point. Is that you have to give them credit because. Yeah. LA has been a hellacious matchup for Minnesota. I mean, if there was one of the years where if you would have done the playoff seeding, Minnesota would have faced LA in the first round, and I'd have argued that was the toughest matchup for them in the entire conference. Last year, I actually thought Vegas was a tougher matchup for Minnesota than either one of Colorado or Dallas would have been, just based on the way the teams were. And you have to give Edmonton credit because they have beaten the team that came out of the Central each of the last 2 years in the conference final. And you can argue that, well, those teams had a tougher path and were beat up a little bit along the way, but I think that's hard to quantify. I just think it's a team that has the ability to elevate their game when you catch their interest. And they've gotten goaltending that has exceeded anything they've had at any other point during the year. I mean, you look at what Skinner did for them in the playoffs. He hadn't played like that at any point all year. And I don't care who the opponent was. If you put McDavid and Draisaitl playing, back-checking the way they back-checked in the playoffs, not pulling some of the same stuff you were just talking about, not showing frustration, not checking out when the game got physical, which a couple of years ago, I had never seen it from them. And I just kept saying, I don't know how you win in the playoffs with guys that play that way. But then they've changed their game and they've played a different brand of hockey in the playoffs the last 2 years and have deserved it to make their run to the final. At least we know we're safe. The watchdogs are on duty.
I think Margot might be home. I leave on Monday for the Olympics. Looking forward to that. I'll be going over there with 8 Wild players. 2 others from the minors will be there. Then obviously the trainers, 2 of the Wild trainers, our orthopedic surgeon, then Bill Guerin, Chris Kelleher, and John Hines. So huge Minnesota Wild contingent going over to Milan, tied for the second most in the league with 8 guys. That includes Florida, which lost Seth Jones, so that's why they're at 8, not 9. And then is it Carolina and New Jersey, I believe, also have 8. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning have 10. Anthony, I know that you love the Olympics. How much are you looking forward to watching this tournament? I'm
looking forward to it. It's hockey at that level is something special. And I love the fact that there'll be, the Four Nations tournament was great, but it was such a small tournament and almost felt like just as you were starting to get traction for just how good these teams were, how good the rivalries were, how intense the games were, it was over. This tournament will have more of a buildup.
Yeah.
You'll play more games. It lasts longer. Feels like a more legitimate event because now you play several of in your pool play, you just get more games. Teams, by the time you get to the medal round, you'll have seen these teams now. They'll have played together for a week and a half. Mm-hmm. And so I think the hockey might be even better. I'm excited to watch it. I really am. I love the Olympics in general. I love watching the sports that you wouldn't otherwise watch. It always is. It's a little tough when it's halfway around the world just because of the time of day and everything. Sure. And that makes it tough because the prime time, I remember as a kid, sitting on the couch and you'd watch the Olympics. The coverage would start right after the evening news and go until the late night news. And in the days of not knowing what had already happened, it was as if you were watching it live. And now it's different because most of the time, I love the fact that on multiple channels, you can watch just about every event if you want, but it's just not quite the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Women's tournament starts for the men's. The women's team from the United States has already been there, as well as Canada, and that tournament starts on February 5th.
Speaking of which, did you watch the Netflix documentary on the
I have
Olympic
not
team?
Yet, but everybody,
unbelievable.
I
watched it yesterday
mutual friend
afternoon.
Mark texted me during the game yesterday.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
I watched it yesterday afternoon, and it is so well done, and it's so cool to see those guys now. They don't have them all together for obvious reasons, but they're all sitting there in the bench in the Lake Placid Arena and watching the video, and you can just see the tears well up in their eyes as they watch some of it together. And there are some really special moments in that. It's worth it. It's a little short of 2 hours, if I remember right. But I flipped it on as I was starting to do my notes and stuff after morning skate yesterday, thinking, well, I'll watch the first part of it now. Maybe I'll throw on the second half when I get to the treadmill later today. And I found myself glued to it where I couldn't stop until it was over.
I'll have to watch it.
It was really good.
I'll have to watch it tonight or watch it on the plane.
It'd be good
tomorrow.
homework for you.
Yeah, I know. It really would. It'd get you ready going. I mean, I was last Friday, so the day before the Wild played Florida, I was talking with Matthew Tkachuk and for a bunch of different stories that I'm working on. And so the one thing that he was telling me is, the pride of representing your country, but the fact that every single one of those guys on the United States, like Miracle's their favorite movie. And you almost think that this should be their homework assignment. Like if Bill Guerin is smart, he will make sure that this is downloaded on every device and
right. Well,
and watched on the en route.
Exactly. And you hear the pride some of these guys take in that this was my dream. Wasn't to play in the NHL, wasn't to lift the Stanley Cup. It was to play in the Olympics for Team USA. And I heard Jack O'Callahan made a comment like that. And I think Dave Silk did as well, that they just talking about their childhood and that this was their, and of course, Dave Christian with his family ties and everything. There were a few of them who made that comment that this was what I always dreamed about as a kid.
Yeah.
Not the seventh game of a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. Brock Nelson, obviously, as you mentioned, Dave Christian, I've got to think that a lot of his family is going to be coming over to Milan. And that's part of the cool part is the federations really take care of the families and make sure that they are there. And we're going to see, Matt Boldy's bringing everybody. It's going to be pretty sweet. I know Bill Guerin's family's coming over, John Hines, everybody. You should come.
I would love to come, but I've got a very busy month of February. It's not, I'm not going to Europe, but it's funny. The kids were all here for dinner last week. And what are you going to do? I said, I have like 2 nights left of the whole month that aren't booked with something already.
Yeah.
A charity dinner that I donated that we got people coming over. I'm helping a college buddy tile his kitchen at his cabin. I've got a bachelor party in Scottsdale. I've got a civil ceremony here in town for AJ. The month filled up fast.
Yeah.
But I would love to be.
Is Margot aware of the tiling?
Yeah, she's aware of it. I think she might have been invited for part of the weekend or something. I'm not quite sure, to be honest.
Because you still haven't done your bathroom, right?
No, we haven't. Let's skip over that part of it, but but you know what it's like where it's when you
not only are we going to skip over, we're going to make that the cold open.
Right. You know what it's like when you get into the grind of the hockey schedule. And so right now, to me, it's Canadiens, Predators, and when I get on the bus after the game in Nashville, that'll be the time I start looking ahead to say, okay, now what do I have scheduled in February? What days have I got what? And because there have been a few times where it's been brought up, like, now remember on the 9th we have on the 9th, like, what day of the, I don't even like what, I don't know. Just tell me what it is. Cause let's just pretend I forgot.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. All right. We'll be right back on Worst Seats in the House.
Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today.
At Royal Credit Union, we believe in banking with purpose. That's why we're here for you and your community with people first service, local support, and all the accounts and loans you need to help reach your financial goals. As a not-for-profit cooperative, everything we do benefits the people and communities we serve, because Royal isn't just where you bank, it's where you belong. Experience the Royal Credit Union difference and learn more at rcu.org/royal support. Insured by NCUA. Loans subject to credit approval. Equal credit opportunity.
If you're like me, your New Year's resolutions are already fading away. But I'll tell you one thing that will not fade ever, and that is the reliability and quality of a Connecticut water treatment system. Here's why I love mine: the no electricity, my soft water, my great tasting water, and of course, my great tasting coffee, and the confidence of knowing how clean the water actually is. I've had a Connecticut water treatment system for years, and every year Aquarius comes out, they test my water, they change my filters, they do absolutely everything. When it comes to my water softener system, they do a full thorough cleaning, they put in new salt, even leave a bunch of bags of salt. It's pretty cool. My end result is worry-free water. Schedule your free water test today at AquariusHomeservices.com and save up to 25%. Yes, that's 25%. Plus, they offer great interest-free financing programs. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. That's why I've done it for years on this podcast. And tell them that Russo sent you. Back here, Worst Seats in the House, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, coming to you from Chateau LaPanta. Or what are we calling this again? The LaPanta Villa? Pillow?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, something like that.
Via de la Panta.
There we go. I should learn that since I'm going to Italy on Monday. Anything else you want to get to before we get to X questions? Does AJ have thoughts? Nothing?
Vinny?
Oh, yeah. Vinny has thoughts.
No, Vinny hasn't sent thoughts for the last couple of weeks. I'll harass him when we get to the Olympic break and see what he's got going on. But no, I mean, really, to me, it's a team that they've fought through and found a way to get points and win some of these games where I think their game has been a little bit off. Mm-hmm. And it says a lot about a team to keep finding ways to win games when that's the case. And some nights they've needed goaltending. Some nights they've needed a penalty kill. And when you look at the sheer numbers, the kill isn't very good for the year. But these last 3 games, it has been the difference in the game.
Yeah, 12 for 12.
Jesper Wallstedt, 5.5 goals against during a 3-game losing streak, comes out, gives up a couple early against Chicago. And to me, felt like a guy, this will be a little of an exaggeration, but it almost felt like a guy whose season might be hanging in the balance. Like, is this going to derail him? And it not only did it not derail him, he might have been the Wild's best player the rest of that game when they came back to win in the shootout against Chicago, and then was terrific in Edmonton in that win over the Oilers. I think it's a bunch of guys that even the guys whose numbers aren't great for the whole year, they've been there when the teams needed them.
Absolutely. Volstead, I mean, the one thing I'll say, that's kind of been his MO. It's been his MO really from the start of training camp, where even in those exhibition starts that he had, he gives up a couple early and then doesn't let it affect the rest of his game. And so he's been really, really excellent. And overall, I just think the team, at this point, being second best in the league, you can't argue with just the way that they are playing. And, at times I know it still gets kind of manic with the fan base anytime they struggle throughout a game, but you got to give it to them that at this point they have not really succumbed to the dog days of the season. God, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to talk to you about some other thing. Well, either way, the Montreal Canadiens come here Monday. The Nashville Predators come here the Wild go to Nashville on Wednesday. And then the trade freeze comes into play on the 4th at 2 p.m. Central Time and lasts until after the break. I believe it's the 22nd at about 11 p.m. our time that trades can be made. I've talked about this a lot, but with so many GMs in Milan, you could see Bill Guerin actually having face-to-face trade talks during the Olympics, and maybe we'll see potential trades right afterwards. Hopefully, a little better than the Marty Hansel trade that happened in 2014. Anthony.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. For obvious reasons. There's no question that some of those discussions won't be taking place. And,
yep.
We are starting to get asked about it more and more every city we visit. I'm sure you hear it a lot more than I do, but I hear it from broadcasters and some of the writers, like in Edmonton, or what's the move? Who's the guy? And it's like, look, I have no idea, but I'll guarantee you that any player whose name has been rumored, there's been a conversation between Billy and that GM. I mean, you just know the way he operates right now that he's going to at least inquire on just about any of these guys, because he's got a team that's a legit contender in the West right now.
Yeah. And
when you're in that spot, you have to make sure you explore every option.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest question is just what type of move is it? If the big fish is not available until this offseason, you can't give up a Jesper Wallstedt now for a B center. You know what I mean? Like a Vincent Trocheck. So I still think it's going to wind up being a centerman like that, because I just don't see, I can't imagine that a Jack Hughes and Austin Matthews are traded now. From what I hear that St. Louis Blues want for Robert Thomas, I don't think you could do it if for no other reason than what if this offseason a better center becomes available, or a superstar winger. And then you react to that, as I brought up, like a Brady Tkachuk or something like that. So I just think they have to be really careful. Plus, Wallstedt is a goaltender right now that can win you games. The other thing is that it's really going to become interesting, because a Trocheck is going to cost you a top prospect and probably a first. So the question is, how do they go with a future first, or do they try to acquire a first through another means? Are they willing at this point to give up a Charlie Stramel, who has just been excellent for Michigan State and is going to be somebody that the Wild are going to definitely want to sign right after the year? Or are they going to know that at this point, because they've traded so many other assets, that it's just inevitable that he's going to be the guy? It's just really fascinating what Billy is going to have to do here.
Yeah, and I think for the right deal, any or all of those guys have to be on the table. If the right fit is out there, I think you have to be willing to make just about any move with how close you are right now, with how different the team looks since the Hughes addition.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't want to say foolish because that's an exaggeration, but you have to be willing to go down just about every possible avenue and say, well, what's the best deal we could make for that guy? And all those players you just mentioned, I think they're the assets you have left.
Yeah.
So it might require a couple of them or a combination of them in some way, shape, or form to get the deal done that pushes you over the top.
It's really interesting too, because a lot of the players that we thought would be available weeks ago, those teams are still hanging around. So the Wild, without a doubt, have interest in Ryan O'Reilly. But if Ryan O'Reilly, first of all, if the Nashville Predators keep hanging around, I don't think he's going to want to go anywhere. And, it is totally up to him, even though he doesn't have the protection. But Barry Trotz has insisted that he will be treated like he has a no move. Pittsburgh's another team that just continues to win. I mean, they're 7th, 8th best in the league. I think Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin are just going to say adios. Buffalo, absolutely on fire. So those pipe dreams of an Alex Tuck or a Tage Thompson are indeed pipe dreams. So, Austin Matthews is the one guy that I think that would be the one that Billy would have probably inquired about as sort of that, oh my God, let's try to do a Quinn Hughes type trade. But according to Elliot Friedman's reporting and others as well, is that the Toronto Maple Leafs, even though they are going to be in sell mode, are not there yet. And he is not there yet where he's like, get me the heck out of here. So that is likely not happening. Let's go to some X questions and then we'll wrap up the show. Anthony's got some Sunday dinner shopping to get done.
Shopping and prep, of course.
Nice. Yeah, I always forget about the prep. You've pointed that out to me, that sometimes I forget that you actually have to prepare.
There are a couple of steps involved before the dinner hits the table.
Yeah, it's not just throwing it in the microwave for a minute because you don't have one. With Quinn Hughes being able to, this is Nate, being able to sign a 7-year deal this offseason, how does Billy manage making win now moves to get him to sign versus waiting until the offseason to possibly get bigger fish in free agency? Well, remember, first of all, he could theoretically sign an 8-year deal with the Wild. It would be 7. It would be 6 the following year with another team. But this is the last year of the 8-year extension for your own team. In terms of that, I mean, look, the offseason's a long time. And you have also all of next year. So just because you don't make the move now, I don't think you could force it. You have the draft that's before free agent, that's before he's extension eligible. So I don't think that this is something that Bill Guerin is overly worried about right now. Puck Gold goes, Ryan O'Reilly or Trocheck, is Stramel gone in either trade scenario, Anthony? My guess is yes.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what people's opinion of him
Stramel
might be. Mm-hmm. It's, let's keep in mind, this is a guy who a couple of years ago, people were talking about as, boy, that was a miss. That was a bust. That was a mistake. And I think the Wild have always maintained the hope that he still had the skill set that they saw when they drafted him. And this year it appears that they were right to say that it's too early to give up on this guy. But I don't know what other organizations think of him. I don't know what those scouts see in him. They might still see the guy that, has had to jump around in his collegiate career just to try to find a spot. And I don't know. The challenge with these trades is always that your opinion of your own player might be totally different than what somebody else thinks of your guy and therefore values him in a trade. And I think you'd have to make sure that it was somebody that valued him similarly to how you do.
Wild Boy is 59. Non-hockey question. Your thoughts on the Vikings and Twins after what happened the past couple days?
Well, I was thankful that we weren't dealing with that with the Minnesota Wild now, because it's never fun to see guys with whom you work on a daily basis lose their jobs. And certainly no fun to go through the turnover that leads to in the front office, where everybody is now all of a sudden on uncertain ground. You just don't know whether you're we've talked about this when the Wild did make changes, whether you're an assistant GM or an analytics guy or an equipment guy or a trainer or whatever. If the new guy comes in and he happens to have a guy that he really likes in your job, you might be the odd man out. And so you never want to see a team that go through that. But I think with both, it's been interesting to hear some of the stories come out after the fact, like what really might have been going on behind the scenes. And I don't know much about, really don't know a whole lot about either one of the spots, enough to comment on it. But it just made me thankful that right now the Wild are on stable ground in those areas.
Yeah. I mean, you always heard mutterings, and even the paternity leave thing, it was stuff that you were hearing behind the scenes for the last couple of years, that people were upset that he took paternity leave, but I mean, it wasn't like Joe Smith taking 5 months, Anthony.
No,
Sorry, Joe, if you're listening, I had to do it. I was preparing to say that for probably 3 hours. And it still didn't come out as funny as I wanted it to do. Kirk Smoot, who is LaPanta's wardrobe consultant? Is it Margot?
No, Margot.
You just have that great taste yourself.
I have the best.
I've seen you go tie shopping.
Yeah, I do. I do love tie shopping, and I've got the best wardrobe consultant in the business. We'll just say that.
You?
No comment.
Spoof asks, with Trennan leading the league in hits, I'm curious how the NHL defines a hit or check. Does puck possession play a role, or timing of the hit? Does an illegal check that results in a penalty still count? No. Or an illegal hit that should have been a penalty but wasn't called. So basically, the original rule was you had to dislodge a puck. And if you read my story last year, they actually audited the hits because they were so down. And all of a sudden, overnight one day, and we were in Philadelphia when I was writing this story, I think Philly. So it would have been like February, maybe. All of a sudden, overnight, might have been 2 years ago. I can't remember when I wrote the story. And you could Google this. Overnight, all of a sudden, guys had 40, 50 more hits. They actually went back and watched every one. But it's technically just a check.
Yeah, it's a check, and and part of their reasoning for trying to do it was they thought that with this player tracking, they were going to be able to be more accurate with it. Yeah. But it's still such a subjective stat because there are a lot of collisions that don't count as hits.
I don't know how fans do the prop betting, why you would trust it. It's one thing, maybe shots, goals, things, but even shots sometimes are inaccurate, but goals, assists, but hits and block shots. There was a long time last night that Jake Middleton didn't have a block shot on the Bouchard one that sent him to the locker room. And you're just dude, he didn't just fall on his own.
And there are just so many little inconsistencies like that.
Giveaways and takeaways is the one that I'm all with you with the whole, it should be a turnover.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
There are so many times where we'll watch a game and it'll be okay, this guy who we just watched block 3 shots on a shift, and you look at the stat sheet and he has 1 block for the night, and you think, well, how is that even possible?
No, the giveaway takeaway thing to me is ridiculous, and I will say it drives me crazy. 2 things: one, when anybody in my business uses it as a stat to throw in a story, and 2. When a fan will essentially tell you you're wrong. No, Kaprizov didn't turn the puck over every shift. He only had 1 giveaway time. That's do not look at the giveaway takeaway. The league just needs to banish that. It's just ridiculous. Jeff Kordsmo goes, what's your sense of Yurov's potential? He's made great progress this year. Seems like he could be at least a strong number 2 center. You and I think probably have a little different opinion on Yurov. I think he's going to be just tremendous. I remember Eriksson Ek at his age, and I look at Yurov, and I think he's already better offensively. Last night, he made a lot of good plays, but also some really bad defensive plays. A couple of those goals, he essentially lost the guy, right?
Yeah, and we actually ran some numbers earlier this season. I don't remember at what point. I think it was maybe early December, where we compared Yurov to Eriksson Ek at that point in his career, and the numbers were very similar through that number of games to start. Because I see a player that looks like he could be a similar type to Eriksson Ek.
I think he's going to be more skilled.
I don't know about that yet, but and it prompted me to ask some people others, scouts and people within the organization. And the one thing, you got to wait to see. He might not have X fire. And I said, but nobody does. There might not be another center in the league that has that kind of mentality that Eck has. So to say that he lacks that that's not a knock on the guy. I think the guy's had a terrific season this year, and he's been more ready than I expected him to be. But I think I still look at him as a guy that maybe an Eriksson Ek type player where he's provides a little offense. He can be really difficult to play against. I think he'll get stronger. I love he plays a smart game, and he does have a little bit more skill than what it looked like he had early in the season. But I don't know that I'm not looking at a guy right now that I think, well, this guy could be a number one center on a good team.
Eriksson Ek last night against Edmonton, my God. I mean, that one penalty kill where he stopped McDavid from coming into the zone and then basically got rid of the puck. That was the beginning of the third period. Pretty impressive. Wild Boys also asked, how do you watch Damon Hunt and take him out of the lineup when everyone is healthy? I mean, it's simple. No, if it's Quinn Hughes, Jonas Berdine, Jake Middleton, he comes out of the lineup. I mean, it's
right. That's just a numbers game.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality. Smalls asks, Shane Pinto a realistic target? I do think Bill Guerin likes him. I don't know if it's a realistic target. Douglas Larson goes, do the Wild have any interest in Elias Pettersson if he's available? I just can't imagine after Quinn Hughes and him being together.
Really, I mean, and I don't know. I have never asked Quinn about this. I don't know how much he'd want to say about it.
My guess is nothing.
Right. But I don't, out of all the players that might be out there, I think I would just steer clear of anybody that had any connection to that Vancouver situation. That's part of the reason why JT Miller wouldn't be wouldn't be high on my list. Doesn't mean that anything that happened there was JT's fault. I don't know, but I'm just saying it was a toxic situation. Yeah. It involved...
And toxicity seems to follow JT, by the way.
It does, but why would you want to do anything that would disrupt what you have here and what seems to be developing with Quinn Hughes here?
Ben Jones, lover, asks, does Spacek have any trade value? I mean, maybe if he has a great Olympics, he might. I think that's a possibility. Kenny asks, at this rate, how will Hughes be worth anything less than $17 million and $1 AAV to the Wild? My guess is that Pat Brisson would be a little more reasonable than that, but he's going to get a lot of money. I mean, there's no doubt. And everything's going to determine on term, right? If he wants a 3-year deal, that's going to line him with Jack. That changes what the dollar figure would be. If he wants an 8-year deal, that changes what the dollar figure would be.
Yeah, there is just something like in the real world, this works in reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, in the NHL, like the longer you're willing to lock in, the more money per year they'll give you. And because they just want certainty. I don't know what Hughes is thinking. I have no idea. Billy Guerin was asked that last night. He was on the Hockey Night in Canada post-game show, and I just happened to be, it was right like 4 feet from where we were interviewing John Hines. So I listened to a part of the conversation with them, and he was asked about it. Those guys always are, they're thinking about things that we've talked about 1,000 times. So to them, it's news. To us, you knew what Billy was going to answer, but the question was, if Quinn Hughes decides he doesn't want to extend, would you consider trading him at the trade deadline? And they meant next year's trade deadline, obviously not this year's. But Billy just said, "Look, we'll worry about that. We'd obviously like to keep him. We'll start talking to him about it this summer. Right now, let's just let the guy get adjusted, get used to life in Minnesota, and let's just see how this season plays out."
Yep. Has anyone, Ben Tassler has anyone asked Quinn why he adjusts the back of his jersey breezers 5,000 times a game as an equipment issue or a twitch? I have not asked him that. I have asked him about the way that he goes into the bench, which is something that's new, and there's a reason why he does it. And one day maybe I'll be able to report it, but right now, no. But there is a reason why he goes into the bench like that. It's not him just doing something weird. Bruce asks, And by the way, Bruce, I've been meaning to want to tell you for 2-3 months since we were at Tuttle's. I actually called the league about your Vezina qualification thing on Jesper Wallstedt, and that is not true. You're thinking of the Jennings. There is no qualification and minimum games for Vezina. Bruce asks, he brings up the goals for and the goals against in November, December, and January, and points out that they are at 52 goals against in the month of January, +4 compared to +17 and +19 in November and December. And he's asking Anthony, with Hughes, the Wild are scoring more, but they are giving up way more goals, twice as many in January. Has the Wild shifted too far toward an offense-first style that will hurt them in the playoffs? You've actually looked at the numbers where it's more of a goaltending issue, right?
It has been more of a goaltending issue. The chance numbers against, the shot numbers against are all really similar. The expected goals against are almost the same. The Quinn plays a higher event style of hockey. So we had a graphic a couple of games ago. I don't know if it still holds true, but at that time, since the trade, no player in the league had been on the ice for more combined goals for and against than Quinn Hughes. Now, part of that is he plays the most minutes. I think when I did it per minute, he was maybe 7th or 8th or something like that. But he was like number 1 and Faber was like number 3, where like Jared Spurgeon was number 216 because both players were like +8, but Spurgeon was 11-3, and those guys were like 29-21 in terms of on ice goals for and against.
Yep.
So it is when he's on the ice, more things happen, but the team really hasn't changed the way they play based on any of the analytics.
Yep. Last question of the show for Anthony. Lucas asks thoughts on Tarasenko lately. I like him.
I think he's been really good, and this is the role that they wanted him to play, to be a third line winger that provides some offense on the second power play. And when somebody is out of the lineup in the top 6, he can move up. And I think he's done a really good job. We talked at the beginning of the season, what did you expect from Tarasenko? And I remember saying, like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see this guy score 20 goals.
You did.
I don't think he's going to get 30. But I think 20 is a reasonable
What's he
number.
at, 13? 14?
I think he's at 14 right now, so he's on pace for right around 20.
Yeah, more than that. We'll wrap up the show because Anthony does have to get to the store before it closes. Somebody did say, as much as we all love hearing about Anthony's dinners and golf game, is there a plan to continue your Straight from the Source podcast? That's my athletic podcast. Actually, somebody from work asked me if I would be willing to do that the other day, and I told them absolutely.
You need more chances to talk and share your opinion.
Gus asks, why didn't Koivu come to any of the anniversary games? He's the only one with a jersey in the rafters because he's an assistant coach for Turku in Finland. And I think that is it. There's talk about a Charlie Coyle reunion. I don't think that's the big blockbuster, but if he's got to be the guy, I know Billy likes him. Would Billy consider putting Modano in for his 1400th game? I think Detroit should be the one that does that. Considering they snubbed them.
I love Charlie Coyle's game lately, by the way. I watched them the other night, and boy, and it would be a lesser price probably than some of the other guys we're talking about, but I sure like the way he's playing. Ben Lynch asks if Stramel's going to go the way of Jack McBain. Stramel has already told Joe Smith that he plans to sign with the Wild. Anthony has 7 of 14 games on national TV holy moly, Anthony. Are you going to be able to handle that in March? Yeah, I've got some nights off, and I don't like them. I prefer to be working every night. Yeah. And you know, the frustrating part for a local TV guy is that they're not picking Wild versus Columbus on Tuesday night in November. They're picking Sunday Wild at Avalanche in March when the playoff race is heating up and the games matter the most. And and I know that, you know, that's just it's the nature of the beast. It's the reality of calling play-by-play for a team that has some national interest and gets high local ratings. So therefore the national networks feel like, well, hey, let's take this team because all those people that are watching on a nightly basis locally will watch us nationally. So I guess if the option is to be with the team where they take the max and take a lot of big games, or call play-by-play for the team where they take 1 or 2 games a year because nobody watches, I'll take being in the state of hockey where the fans are passionate.
No doubt about that. Thanks, Anthony, for having me, especially when you just got off the flight from Edmonton. Pay attention to our social media in the month of February. We'll do a couple shows remotely with me and Milan and Anthony here. Anthony might also do a live show with a co-guest host, so pay attention to that. Thanks to our incredible sponsors and for joining us at the Aquarius Home Services studio. Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Royal Credit Union, and Onyx Maps. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Olympic break.
So much coming out, there's